We are here on B1.1, which is all about protein. We continue talking about all the different types of macromolecules. In this section, we have two guiding questions. One is, what is the relationship between amino acid sequence and the diversity in the forms and functions of proteins? Second one is, how are protein molecules affected by their chemical and physical environment? So keep those two questions as we go along through the video. So what are the things we're going to learn in this video? Obviously, we're going to look at the structure of amino acid, looking at its carbons, these R groups, the variant, of course, also the amino group and the carbox group, and how everything interacts. We're also going to look at the condensation reaction, which put two amino acids together to form a dipeptide. We're also going to look at different dietary requirements as amino acids, what kind of food that we have to get for what kind of amino acids we're going to eat. We're also going to look at different types of amino acids and how that is expressed through genetic code, having different types of polypeptide made. And we're also going to look at how the pH and the temperature can affect the structure and eventually the functions of these proteins, which we call the denaturing. So by the end of this video, what exactly are you going to see? You're going to see what the structure of amino acid, be able to draw and look at each part. We're also going to learn the condensation reaction of an amino acid turning into a dipeptide. You're going to be able to draw a dipeptide. You're also going to look at the difference between essential and non-essential amino acids and recognize these different types of amino acids and how the genetic code can affect it. You're also going to know examples of polypeptides and know their functions. And of course, how the pH and the temperature affect the protein structure, which is denaturing. So with that in mind, let's first understand some of the basic things about the protein. One of the basic things here is that it's a component. It has a carbon and hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. Remember the nitrogen. The nitrogen is the one that usually, if you see in a structure, most likely is an amino acid, besides the nucleic acids, which they have the phosphate too. But remember, seeing that N makes a difference. The monomer, which means that one piece, it is known as amino acid. Obviously, there are 20 essential amino acids. Now, what is the main function of an amino acid, of a protein? That is for structure. So we are talking a lot of things. Structure. One example of a structure in this case can be actually our muscles. Now, you can also find in the hair and the nail, the skin. Now, when you have a long chain of amino acids, one attached to the other, with a bond known as peptide bonds right here, you have a long chain that becomes a polypeptide. So you can see from the word poly, which is many, and peptide is the peptide bond. Right here, these are the amino acids, and you can see that the bonds between these amino acids are the peptide bond. So in the long run, they become these long pieces of polypeptides that eventually becomes protein. Now, one amino acid, you have one side of it, the carboxyl group, and the other side you have the amino group, and then you have the hydrogen, and then you have the R group, and the carbon in the middle. So you really have to know the structure of an amino acid. Now, sometimes you see less H here, and you don't have to put it, you just have to put 2 H, and that's totally fine. So looking more closely at an amino acid structure, because you have to know it by heart, they might ask you to draw this. So here you have the OH, and you have the oxygen with a double bond with a carbon. You have a hydrogen, a carbon, an R, which can be changing. And then you have the nitrogen with the two hydrogens. Once again, this is the amino group, and this side is the carboxyl group. So you really have to be able to draw this. So sometimes you will see draws showing this N, H2N-C, H, R, and then you will have the COOH. This is a more condensed structure drawing, but it's still the same thing. So don't get confused or panicking about it's the same thing. It's just putting the elements closer to each other. But that is the generalized amino acid structure. Now, what changes between all these generalized amino structures? It is the R group. So when you see here highlighted, all these guys right here, these are the different R's. And because of those different R's, you end up having different amino acids. As you can see, the names here changing just by changing the R group. So you don't have to know any of these guys, but you have to know that there's 20 of them. And what makes a difference between them, it is the R group. So when we talk about amino acids and different types, obviously there's going to be two types, the essential ones and the non-essential ones. The essential ones, these are obtained from the food. The non-essential, your own body can actually make them. You do not need to know all of them in details. You just need to know that there is essential amino acids like these ones, which you have to eat in order to get them. These ones here are non-essential. These ones, you don't need to get them from your food. You actually produce them on your own in your body. So if you understand the concept of the difference between essential and non-essential, that's good enough. You don't need to know all the names. Now, when it comes to amino acid and vegans, because now we have a large group of people going towards vegan, and there's a lot of discussions and debates like, oh, you guys are missing some of the proteins when you go vegan. Well, it's not true. There is elements found, or should I say amino acids found in these food that are found in the vegan parts. So like I said, we do have some essentials and non-essential amino acids. Now, if you want to get some of these amino acids that basically all in our vegan food, right here you see all different types. We got spirulina, we got nut butter, oatmeal, beans, hemp, chia seeds, quinoa, broccoli, nuts. All of these are examples of showing that they have the essential amino acids that you need. So you still can get a good diet on a vegan as long as you actually matching all the amount of proteins you necessarily need. But these amino acids are actually found everywhere. It's not just in your meat. So right now we have to learn how to do the condensation reaction. When I say condensation reaction, that is the same thing as dehydration synthesis, which is the same thing as anabolism, which you had to learn this in the previous video about molecules to metabolism, in which you have to build from 2 amino acids into one piece, large piece made of 2, which in this case we call it the dipeptide. So right here you see one amino acid being drawn, and here you see another one, and they are added by a plus because of an addition of 2 amino acids. These arrows are saying that you can go back or forward, right? You can build them or you can break them. But when you want to build them, so you're going to go with this arrow right here. Now, what exactly do? We actually will get the OH out of the carboxyl group, and remember, OH from the carboxyl, while a hydrogen from the amino group, and together, we're going to join them and make a water. So we are removing water. They might ask you again, who's the OH you're getting? Again, from the carboxyl. Who's the H you're getting from? Amino group. Once you do this, then you have to combine these 2 amino acids. So once again, you have the hydrogen connect a nitrogen to a hydrogen with a carbon bound to a hydrogen to the R. And then remember here, the C which is the carbon, is connecting to the nitrogen of the other amino acid. Obviously, you still have left here you have left the oxygen here with the double bond. Here we have left 1 hydrogen, carbon, hydrogen, R, and then you have carbon double O, carbon OH. So this bond right here, you have to label it that this is known as a peptide bond, because a peptide bond is what connects 2 amino acids. And this whole piece right here, this that you just formed, this is known as a dipeptide. The di here is basically saying that 2 amino acids, and peptide is saying that there is a peptide bond between those 2 amino acids. This is an example of condensation reaction, which is same thing as dehydration synthesis, which is the same thing as anabolism. You're going from 2 pieces to make 1 large piece. So you have to know how to draw this. That was talking about building larger proteins, from small pieces. Now let's talk about how the genes can actually work with amino acids or making proteins. Now here's the important thing. Do not believe when they tell you that the gene is controlling you. Genes do not control you. You control your genes. What controls is what you're eating, what you're thinking, where you're getting yourself exposed to the environment. Why is that? Every human has around 25,000 genes. We all have that. So it's not like this person has a gene and we don't. We all have it. But the question is, are we triggering those genes to express in a certain way? Why am I saying this? For example, this one gene out of your 25,000, if you are exposing yourself to an environment A, which is very stressful, and things are going wrong, that gene will express a certain type of protein A that can be very destructible. If you are expose yourself to an environment B, which is more like relaxing, then the gene will express some kind of cells that are more relaxed. If you are in a very, very peaceful place, which is everything's happy, then you're most likely going to produce some kind of protein that's good. And that just not only goes with proteins, but it goes with any kind of chemical in your body. So the power comes in your mind to keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, right? So a gene can express as up to 25,000 different types of proteins. So all of our 25,000 genes. Each one can express about 25,000 genes so far that we know. And all of us, the billion people around us, each one will express genes differently. But if you are expressing, thinking, or eating the same thing as another people, then you're going to get the same kind of expression from that gene. So if both of us are in environment A, we're both going to make that gene express A. If you are in environment A and I'm in environment B, I'm going to express B, you're going to express A. But that's from the same gene. So the genes can express so many different types of proteins depending on what it is triggering it to turn off or turn on. So another thing that we know about these genes is that the DNA has many nucleotides, right? And the combination of these nucleotides will turn into mRNA, and then mRNA will be read by the ribosome. When the mRNA is reading the ribosome, it will always read in 3 nucleotides, which is known as a codon. So in this chart, you can see there is about 64 codons. That means these nucleotides, just one codon is expressing for an amino acid. And you can see all the amino acids are here, and they are basically used in order to produce a protein. So obviously, whatever you're expressing out of the DNA will convert to a protein through using this chart. So when we get to the idea of proteome basically it's the entire sets of proteins that can express from a certain genome. That means your cell with all the genetic information that you have. So you can see that here, just from that 21 to 25,000 of genes, you basically go through the whole transcription and translation here, and then look, you can express so many different types of protein depending on what you're thinking, what you're eating, which environment you are, how you're behaving. All of this can turn on or turn off your gene and then express some protein or another. Now, since we're talking about protein, why not talk about examples of proteins? We have here glucagon, which glucagon is a hormone, but it's a protein. This hormone is made of protein, and glucagon helps release glucose into your blood. Insulin is another type of hormone. So both, these two, glucagon and insulin, they're both produced in the pancreas. And what insulin does is the hormone that puts the sugar, the glucose, inside of your cell. Oxytocin is another type of hormone, and this one helps production of breast milk. We have ADH, which is another hormone also that is working with your kidneys and retaining water. And calcitonin is, again, another type of chemical that is always connecting and working with your metabolism. And there's so many other proteins, hormones. Do you have to know all of them? No. But as you go along and learning throughout the entire themes of from A to D, some of them will become very, very common to you, so you can use these as your examples in the test. So here's other types of proteins that you probably have heard before, such as hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is also a protein that is carrying oxygen throughout your body. You also have actin and myosin. These two proteins make up your muscle. The immunoglobulins, these are the ones fighting your immune system, and they're the ones that are making sure fighting kind of allergies, fighting bacteria and virus. And amylase, which is an enzyme, all the enzymes are proteins. So amylase, for instance, is used in the digestive system. What is it doing? It's breaking down starch. So you see, proteins can be found as enzymes, proteins can be found as hormones, proteins can be found as receptors. So there's a lot of structures and functions of proteins in your bodies necessarily. So let's look at some example structures. Collagen, spider cell, hormones, insulin, glucagon, immunity, hemoglobins, transport, hemoglobin, sensation, rhodopsin, which you find in your eyes, movement, actin, myosin, enzymes, rubisco. This is just to show you so many different types of functions of proteins. Structure, hormone, immunity, transport, sensation, movement, enzymes. Know these and on one of these examples. This might show up as one of the questions of the test. So let's get to the last part here, which is about denaturing. That means when you produce a protein, they have a specific structure. And when they have a specific structure, that means they have a specific function. If you destroy that structure, then they cannot function anymore. And that's what denaturing is about. Denaturing about is when the protein loses its biological properties. That means its structure and eventually its function. So this, when a protein is folded like this, it's perfectly working, but some kind of denature happens, and we're going to see the two examples, and then they unfold, and when they unfold, they lose the entire function. They cannot work anymore. So what are the ways in which you can actually make such things stop functioning? One is temperature. Whenever you are in a very high temperature, what is the high temperature doing? It's destroying all the hydrogen bonds inside the proteins. So by destroying these hydrogen bonds, it loses the folding, And with that, nothing works. This is why for instance, for us, our temperature is around 36, right? If we get to a temperature of 44, which is a high temperature, that means all our enzymes are not functioning. This is why we die. Then the second one is the pH. Again, the pH can also affect amino acid because amino acid has charges. Believe it or not, amino acids can be positive or negative. But when they're exposed to the wrong pH, the charges changes. So whatever was positive becomes negative, whatever was negative becomes positive, all because they were exposed to the wrong pH. When that happens, that's it. The protein will lose its solubility, the protein will not be able to function, and in this case, it will not work. An example of that is pepsin. It's an enzyme found in your stomach. It only works at a pH of 2. So that means it only works in an area very acidic. If you take that pepsin, which works in the area acidic, and you put it in the basic area, that's it. It loses its charges, and that way it will not function. So remember, temperature works on the hydrogen bonds, and the pH work is on the charges of the amino acids. And when they're exposed to the wrong temperatures, such as high temperature, or if they're exposed to a basic when they're supposed to be acid, or acid when they're basic, then the charges are done. So these are examples of denaturing a protein. So with that, we finished this video. So what have you learned? How to draw the amino acid, looking at the carboxyl, the amino, everything. We talked about the equation of doing condensation reaction with amino acids. We talked about how to draw a dipeptide. We talk about the difference between essential and non-essential. We have talked and recognized all the 20 amino acids and how genetic code can affect. And we also talk about examples of polypeptides and know their functions. And eventually we learn about the pH and temperature, how these two types of factors can denature a protein if they're put in the wrong place. So this is it for this video on proteins. Next section, if you're an HL, you go for the HL proteins. And if you're not, if you're an SL, we are going to membranes and membrane transport. I see you in the next video. And remember, with NAOB, you can get that 7. See you later.